Hello boys and girls, I hope everyone's having a wonderful day and I hope everyone is super excited and ready to paint with watercolor just like I am. Today in this video we will be painting with watercolor and we are going to learn two new watercolor techniques. The two new watercolor techniques we will be learning today is watercolor resist with wax and the salt method. Boys and girls, I hope you are super excited to learn today. Let's get all of our materials ready and let's get started. The materials you will be using to complete this project are a piece of watercolor paper, some watercolors, a large flat paintbrush to help spread watercolor quickly across the paper, a box of crayons, but particularly a white crayon, some salt, a paper towel or rag to help dry your paintbrush, and a glass of water. Now that you know all of the materials you will be needing, please take this time to pause the video and make sure you have everything ready to begin. Now that you have everything ready and laid out to begin this snowflake project, the first thing we will be doing is grabbing our white crayon to draw our snowflakes onto the page. Because we are drawing on a white paper with a white crayon, it is very hard to see. So for the purpose of this video, I will be drawing with a gray crayon. With your white crayon, start drawing snowflakes around your paper like I am doing with my gray crayon. If you are having trouble remembering what a snowflake looks like, you can take this time to pause the video and look up photos of snowflakes on the internet for inspiration. I like to draw my snowflakes by drawing an X on the page and then adding a plus sign over top of it. And then after I complete that, I like to go in and add details to each line, as you can see in the video. Every snowflake is different, so don't worry about making them all look the same. Have fun and experiment with different snowflake patterns. You can put as many snowflakes as you'd like on the page and wherever you'd like on the page. You can even add other objects besides snowflakes, like a snowman or a sled, to go with the winter theme for this project. Make sure you are applying pressure to your crayon as you draw so it leaves a smooth, sharp line on your paper. This will help with the watercolor resist technique. The watercolor resist technique is where you add a material to your paper before adding watercolor, like we are doing with the snowflakes. By putting the crayon down first, it leaves a waxy surface on the paper. Once you add the watercolor on top of the crayon marks, the wax from the crayons will resist the watercolor, allowing you to see the white of the paper through your watercolor. Take this time to finish drawing your snowflakes or other objects you might be drawing on your paper. Switching back over to my watercolor paper with white crayon snowflakes that I drew off camera, we can start painting. Make sure to gently wipe away any leftover crayon from your paper before adding watercolor. Dip your flat paintbrush into your water cup and cover your entire paper with only water, but make sure you don't add too much water because you don't want your page to get too wet. Long, fast brush strokes will help you cover your paper quickly. It's important to work a little fast during this part because we don't want our paper to dry before adding watercolor. This process is called wet on wet. Wet on wet is where you add water to the paper first before adding color. This allows the watercolor to blend and move easily around your paper. Now it's time to add the watercolor. Choose what colors you'd like to add before painting. Remember to keep in mind primary and secondary colors when choosing what colors to use. Pause the video and think about what colors are primary and secondary. If you guessed red, yellow, and blue for primary colors, you are absolutely right. And by blending each primary color together, they make secondary colors like green, orange, and purple. I decided to go with blue and purple for my colors because I know they blend well together and I think blue would go really well with the winter theme we have for this project. Jumping right in with my watercolor, I wet my brush and dip it into the color blue. If you get too much color on your paintbrush, you can move it to the side and add more water like I did. With the same brushstroke motion as before, add your color to your paper. When you brush over the crayon, you will see the water resist technique in action. Carefully spread the rest of your watercolor around on your page. I'm constantly adding water and paint to my paintbrush while I am painting. If you want your watercolor to be more dark, try going in with straight watercolor and not adding water. Once you are happy with how your first color is placed on the page, it is very important to go in and properly clean your paintbrush before going in with your second color. As I mentioned before, my second color is purple, so I am just slowly adding water to the purple and adding it to my page. The purple is a lot lighter than the blue, so I had to go over it a couple times. Be careful though, because you don't want to go over your crayon marks so much, because then it might turn out a little muddy. You can always go in and add your colors on top of each other to get a nice blended effect. When you are done putting the color onto your page, grab your salt and sprinkle it all over your painting. It is very important to do this while your painting is still wet, or the salt method will not work. When you add the salt onto your wet page, the salt will suck up all the water and leave a very fun and textured background. Watercolor artist Alice Shield has used this technique in several of her paintings. Once you are done sprinkling the salt, it's time to let your painting dry. While you wait, you can clean your workspace, like I am doing in the video. Carefully pat your paintbrush down to make sure the hairs on the paintbrush does not flare or get damaged. You can also go ahead and clean off the lid on your watercolor tray if you used it to mix like I did. Now come back in a few minutes and see if your painting is dry. Once you come back, you should check and see if it's dry. To check and see if it's dry, move it around, and if you see any reflection from light, that means it is still wet. After your painting is completely dry, you can slowly and carefully wipe away all the extra salt. And there you have it, boys and girls, your finished product. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something from it. Bye, thanks for watching.